Man, oh man, this came from Philip. It came last week. Philip is from Kincardine, Ontario. Kincardine, right out on the lake, southwestern Ontario. And he says, hey, Dan, you seem to do a lot with your own companies. Can you share 3 or 4 strategies that help you get to that next level when you were starting out in business? So all transparency, I had to dig in deeper to the question to Philip to really understand what he meant by a lot with my own companies. And it turns out he sees me representing 2 or 3 different companies at the same time. Okay. And while it may seem at times that I don't sleep, I assured him it takes a village. And so as he and I chatted, we started to talk about, first, what are some of the common mistakes that I see young or new business owners making, and then how do we kind of quickly overcome or shift gears on those challenges? And I'll tell you that these 2 or 3 things that I see as challenging for budding entrepreneurs, new businesses, is the same thing I see that are challenges with tenured retail veterans.
Okay.
And we talk about these 3 or 4 things being identity is a problem or is an issue for us. I'll expand on these in a second, but identity, funding, objectivity, and mentorship. And so what do I mean by identity? People don't always truly know who they are or who they want to be. Let's just talk about a young business person. Their education comes from their part-time job or their degree, which teaches them to lay out a well-thought, well-defined business plan that has no vision. It has no big, hairy, audacious goal. They're not taught to learn to be, to think like BHAG goals. What's my biggest, craziest dream? And now start to back up. They're taught to methodically move through, this business plan without vision. And so not always do our budding, retail entrepreneurs know who they are, nor are they prepared to adapt to who they need to become to find success. I can tell you that the biggest holdback is I don't do that. I don't like that. I don't believe in that. All right? You're here to do business. Doing business, has to have some level of commerce. And that means that you have to be adaptable. And it's not about who and what you like. It's about the market that you're catering to. So identity is probably one of the biggest mistakes. Tell me about your vision. Often comes with a response.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And so you really have to be able to, draw out what your identity looks like, but it's drawn in sand or written in sand, brother. You got to rub it out and rewrite it every week, every month, every quarter, every year. At some normal cadence, we've got to revisit what's our identity. What is our core purpose? What are we going to do? So identity is a big challenge. Funding is always a challenge for a budding entrepreneur. They go into business underfunded or undercapitalized. And a lot of us in business, spend most of our lives being underfunded. And we try to do everything ourselves. Because of this, what we call, affordability or a lack of affordability. I can't afford to do it. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can't. You can't not afford this. You've got to figure out a way to afford it. And having a good funding plan, not necessarily, a big bank loan, but having a funding plan that measures cash flow dynamically and parks, a little bit of cash away for your next project every single day is critical. And cash flow planning, not budgeting, not profit and loss in your business plan, but true cash flow planning has to be a dynamic entity, a dynamic embolism in your organization. You've got to be constantly planning. And most new retailers lack that funding understanding, and it's available to them. The other thing I talked about was objectivity with Philip. And I said, you've got to be objective. You've got to be able to rise above and look down on your business from outside of it and say, we talked about clarity breaks before. Take that clarity break, look down on the business and say, what do I need to do to inch forward, not jump forward, right? I've spent, 35 years, Rob, becoming successful.
Having that overnight success.
Another 30 doing it, right? It's not an overnight success, man. You've got to have this level of objectivity to rise above and say, okay, this might be a mistake. This is on point. This is not. This is where I'm going to need to apply some pressure. And so many people come to us with this, stuck in this narrow lane. They've got no objectivity. They've got to have objectivity. And the last thing Philip and I talked about, which of course, meant something to me, was mentorship.
Okay.
And so I can tell you, when I go back in my life, I can identify today all the mistakes I made. I can't go back and tell you, hey, it was that moment that got me to the next level. But I can tell you every moment that set me backwards. And that realization of what I did wrong is part of what we share in a mentorship relationship today, or a mentorship role. And for every budding entrepreneur out there, if you don't have a mentorship plan in your business today, you are missing something. And listen, mentorship doesn't necessarily come from a guy that gets paid to do it, right? We have business advisory teams that are there to help. And I promise, if you picked up the phone and called your accountant and said, hey, Scotty, I need some business advice. I need somebody that's objective. Could I get an hour of time a month from you?
Yeah.
If you called your commercial bank account manager and said, hey, I'd love to get an hour of your time a month to sit on my business advisory team, I guarantee you're going to get a positive response from these people. And I could tell you, Rob, going through business in my life, that my successes have all come from being surrounded by people better than me, by people that know more than I know, that have been there, done that, have failed at something and succeeded at something. And I think that one of the best things I bring in this mentorship role, even to a new person like Philip, is that I failed a ton, man. I have failed a ton. And I failed a ton, but I know enough to say, just because I failed at it doesn't mean you have to. I can just see some signs earlier than you might see them in that new wearing 50 hats job that you're in, role that you're in.
Guess what? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yeah. Right. Listen, I've made more mistakes than I've ever not, and I've failed at as many things as perhaps seen some success. And part of that is the entrepreneurial path. You have to be spiraling out of control before you can start to move up, or feeling like you're, a hamster on the wheel before you break through that glass ceiling. And you need to have mentorship. You've got to surround yourself with people that are prepared to share openly, not tell you what to do, but ask the right questions so that you make better decisions. And so thankfully, Philip and I got connected over that. And I said to him, I really am not doing that much. I truly believe in delegating and elevating, to my unique ability. I have really good people around me. But when we start out in business, you don't maybe always have the best people. And so we have to go through this entrepreneurial process of identifying, who are the people that should be around you? What should your accountability chart look like a year from now, and 3 years from now, and 10 years from now? You've got to have that vision planning in place.
When you look back, Dan, to give someone starting that actionable item as it relates to mentorship, when you look back, was it those real one-on-one, say the accountant mentorship relationship, or was it more, surrounding yourself with peers, whether it's Chamber of Commerce or Rotary? What do you think offered the best value, or was it a little from column A, a little from column B?
Well, it is always going to be a combination of everything, but I'm going to tell you this. Smartest decision I was ever introduced to was a mastermind group. Not everybody can afford to be part of a mastermind group, but it allowed me to assemble with peers, 12 or 15 of my peers, and learn and give and take, from those best practices and from the financial metric analysis. And so being part of that mastermind group was a really healthy thing for me because I was young. I didn't know a ton. It gave me exposure to things I didn't know. Yep. So certainly that mastermind was a great opportunity. I can tell you this, from the very first trade show I ever went to,
okay,
my mentor, I'm going to call Stan my mentor. He became a good partner to me, but really Stan was in a mentorship capacity. And the first time I went to a trade show with him, we parked our asses in a seminar. We didn't go buying. We sat in a seminar. And I say this to retailers all the time. If you're going to Magic, if you're going to Coterie, or if you're going to go to No Show or Trends or wherever it is you're going to buy from, Atlanta, go to the seminars, look at the seminar list, learn from those people that are out there sharing their expertise. Be a sponge and just absorb that. Walk away with one thing from every seminar that you can write on a playing card and park it on your desk until it's time. So I did, Rob, trade shows was a big thing for me, going to those seminars and then having the ability to be exposed to a retail coach. And I think I've talked about this before. I really had two good coaches in my life. One is, his name was Lee Rochelle. He was a very strong operational guy, really sound on the operational, on the back of the house kind of stuff. And then Tony Lester, still absolutely my favorite sales coach ever. I can still hear Tony's voice in my head as she would say, what's your mission today? And I've regurgitated that for 12 or 15 years. What's your mission today? What brings you in today, and the power of you. Nice. And that Tony really impressed that upon me. And she still reigns supreme in my mind as one of my better, sales mentors. And that's what she was. She was a mentor to me. And whether we were in a monetary driven relationship or not, I always had the ability to text her, call her, talk to her. And I've had that good fortune and still have good contact with lots of different mentors and follow some of them still today. I mean, David McMahon was a really smart, young accounting mind. His father, Wayne McMahon. I mean, I still loved those guys. Phyllis Bosco from she was with Profit Systems, and Shelley Parlin, who left retail and went into residential real estate. I mean, all of these people became mentors to me, and I leaned hard on them because of their been there, done that, and their willingness to share openly, to be vulnerable. And I'm definitely not afraid to say to you, man, oh man, I made a lot of mistakes. You got a couple hours and a half a ball of scotch. Let's sit down and we'll start to talk about them. But that's
I really like even when sharing that story of going to the big shows and my takeaway, what I heard you talk about vision, mentorship, and how you saw the value gained more out of around that vision, mentorship, than the to your first point, getting lost in the technical of a business plan and I got to go buy and just the value you got as a business person, focusing on those things. That's awesome.
And Rob, there's so much of that available in our marketplace today, more today than there ever has been. And I'm going to tell you this, retailers, if you're not following these people virtually, you should be. All these people that speak at trade shows, they're there for a reason. They get those invitations for a reason. They are, leaders in their field, in their industry. And Magic may be back in person in August for people, and retailers need to be part of, that education that you can get. It's technically free. You've already paid to go to the trade show. Yeah. Stop wasting your time buying shit from 800 different vendors out there. Spend a little bit of time on yourself.